Welcome back to Sidewalk, Skyline podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Rogers. And my guest today, I had the opportunity way back in June. We sat down together in Montreal at a little restaurant called Crepe Suzette in Old Montreal. And I had a chance to meet Andy Gourley face to face without any agenda. But after talking for a while, I thought, I got to get Andy on the podcast to talk about something that I've become familiar with over the last few years here in Canada, and that is a organization called Red Frogs. So, Andy, welcome. And are you on the Gold Coast in Australia today?
Mate, I'm close to the Gold Coast. I'm in Brisbane, only an hour up the road, and in between the Sunshine Coast and Gold Coast. So it's definitely God's country out here.
Your story is it. I mean, the story of Red Frogs really kind of starts with you and a small handful of people. So, for anybody that's not familiar with Red Frogs, why don't you take us back to the beginning? I think it was 1997, and back when we were younger men. And what happened in '97 that put you on this life mission?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Brisbane, and I did a Bachelor of Business Accountancy at QUT and started working as an accountant. But while I was going to uni, I started to attend a local church in Brizzy, and I got really challenged because I come from a really good background and great parents, great family, very blessed in growing up in a good environment. But I got really challenged when I started a bit of a faith journey where, life's just not about me, my accounting career, my Reds memberships, my rugby memberships, my snowboard trips. It's actually about others as well. And that really challenged me to give back and to do something for others outside my world, that I don't become just a real selfish individual, but learn a little bit about servanthood, which was modeled by a very, very wise man 2,000 years ago. And so for me, being a skater, I started some skateboarding clubs in my area for little kids that used to run amok on the streets and throw bricks through windows and set fire to things, little rats in our area. And started these skateboarding clubs, and we saw some big changes. We saw some of these kids, after a couple of years, start coming out of the drugs, out of the alcohol. And then we started 5 of these youth clubs all through Brisbane, feeding into different youth programs through my local church. And from that, though, they went to a big festival in Australia called Schoolies Week. It's like our spring break. It's when all our students finish their high school years. They all go party for a week in our beach locations. And one of them is the Gold Coast. And there was like 30,000 17-year-olds heading to the Gold Coast for a week with more alcohol than, you could think about. And in these high-rise buildings, I don't know, drinking on the 30th floor of buildings as 17-year-olds, what could go wrong there? And my skaters were heading down there, and but as a youth worker, I just seen these kids come out of the drugs and out of the alcohol and out of all these dramas. But I just knew in the wrong environment they could get caught up in that scene again. So I actually went down there to help my boys. And when I got down to the Gold Coast, I just couldn't believe how big it had gotten, like 30,000 down there, and bottles coming off buildings and chairs coming off buildings, and like even a fridge came off a building into a pool. And it was like you need a hard hat walking down the main strip there. And I just saw hotel managers trying to manage 400 17-year-olds in their building. And I just felt sorry for them. And I said, look, would you like a hand with these teenagers? My skaters are in your building running amok. I'm like their youth worker. I can help you. And that was my famous last words as they dragged me into this building, started giving me free rooms. And they said, yes, please, Andy. We've got no idea on youth culture, no idea on what's going on. Can you help? So we just literally grabbed 17 of my mates from my local uni and church, and we came down. We just started crashing parties, just going floor to floor, finding kids passed out in stairwells and dragging them home and down the beaches. We take them off the beaches so they wouldn't get assaulted. And we basically were in the parties, calling in paramedics if they needed assistance. And we just started to provide this role of being like a bit of I call it like a fence at the top of the cliff instead of the ambulances at the bottom, like a bit of that, just getting there just in time, not after time, really safeguarding a lot of young people that, young people make dumb decisions when you're young. I think, mate, if you think about you and me when we were 17, 18, we probably didn't make the best decisions back in the day too. So, yeah, so just sort of a real accidental stumbling into this amazing program, which is now called Red Frogs.
I got to ask before we talk more about red frogs. You said I heard you say that you were a skateboarder, and also I heard you slip in there snowboarding. And just a question for adult men: at what age do you think it's wise to get off the boards?
Yeah, look, when you get older, you don't bounce as well. And I still have a roll on the skatey. Definitely, I'm a downhill skater, so my maximum speed is about 45 kilometers an hour is about my max speed. But I tell you what, I slow right down now. I just do car parks, and we have pump tracks in Australia. We're around these skate parks, so it's more of a mode of transport than a vehicle of excitement for me these days. So why walk when you can roll is my philosophy. But I think that you need to be wiser in your older age, and I don't try the mad stuff anymore. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you have a favorite memory where you just felt like you outdid yourself on a skateboard or a snowboard?
Yeah, definitely downhilling. There's a big uni, Griffith Uni, and there's about 17 different lines or different downhills. And me and there's three mates who used to push me that would be pretty tight who'd win. And we were racing down this hill, but we took the wrong turn and we went down this car park, and there was a big boom gate with a speed bump under it. And it was a goofy corner for me, which is an opposite to my natural side of turning. So we had to hit a speed bump under a boom gate at about 40 k's and make a turn all at once without dying. And yeah, we all made it but the adrenaline was flying. I think later that night there was a corner I didn't make, and it flew me into the bush, and I snapped a tree in half with my back and rolled down. But it actually cushioned my fall, which is great. So yeah, some of those downhill adventures, mate, were good fun back in the day.
So let's just say that when it came to hanging out with 17-year-olds that were taking risks, it came easy to you then?
Yeah, very much so. When I first started, I was about 18, 19, and the kids were mainly 13, 14. So I think that 4 to 5 year gap was a really good thing where I was sort of one stage ahead. I wasn't too old to be mum or dad, wasn't security, but just there, like almost like an older brother. But also when I look back, I was really being like a spiritual dad to a lot of these kids. And in fact,
Mhm.
one of them had a dad in Canada that hadn't actually known he's got separated from his kid when they were young, and he actually prayed for his kid every night that someone would be looking after him, that someone would be there. And I'd keep running into the same kid week after week. He'd just be skating. I'd be driving down the road. He'd skate out in front of my car, and I just keep skating with this kid. And it was amazing. Like 5 years later, meeting his dad in Vancouver and seeing that, sometimes we're just a puppet to people's prayer lives too. There are angels out there looking after us, but also God uses people, in that role too. So, yeah, that was really exciting that, that a lot of these kids that I think just having that little gap, but not too much of a gap, was a really good way of being that positive influence for these young kids' lives.
Now, anybody that's wondering where the name came from, Allen's Confectionery Company, a candy company, they have this candy you can get in a bag that is red, and it's about that big, and it's shaped like a frog. It's a red frog. So, when did the frog enter into the Gold Coast strategy?
Yeah, well, when we started to go down the Gold Coast and like be that official party crasher down there, looking after them in the hotel rooms and walking them home, and we were having trouble getting into parties. Like we had event shirts on, we had IDs, we'd be officially, sanctioned by the hotel itself, but we're having trouble getting into parties. But we actually went to a mate and said, Luke, there's got to be an easy way of getting to these parties, mate. So we went down to a convenience store, and on the convenience store was this big box of candies in the shape of a red frog. And so we grabbed this whole box of frogs, went straight back up to this building full of spring breakers or schoolies. And as soon as we knocked on the door and they opened the door, they went, "Oh, red frogs." They literally dragged us into their parties, grabbing handfuls, and then they get on their phone to their mate's unit downstairs going, "We got frogs," and they'd be coming up. And I'd be standing here with these box of candies going, "These things are amazing." So all those parents out there that have told their kids don't take lollies from strangers, yeah, it doesn't work, eh? It's amazing. So, but just got us into all these parties. So we basically went through 80 kilos of these candies in our first year. Then the next year was 220 kilos, then 440, then 880, then 1.2 ton. Now it's 24 ton a year and over 28 locations for schoolies, looking after 70,000 spring breakers. But then in unis, it's 400,000 uni students and over 1,900 events in Australia, then through music festivals, sporting events. So, yeah, it's a very accidental branding. So, my original program name was Hotel Chaplaincy for the schoolie spring break. Then I had skateboarding programs, UniNet for unis, but Red Frogs ate all my brands because the students just kept calling us Froggers. Every time we walk down the road, they go, "Oh, Froggers, Froggers." So the branding stuck to us. So Red Frogs is a brand a generation's given to us, students have given to us, and it just stuck like the candy it is.
Andy, you're like a kingpin for some kind of sugar cartel.
Mate, we're sponsored by the Dental Association of Australia, mate, creating dental spots for more students.
That's awesome. Um, Talk to me a bit about your transition to it started out as a spring break kind of a, outreach to partying students, but over the years it spread to being on university campuses and other places. It's spread throughout the world to several countries now. So
Mm.
talk to me a little bit about the scaling up for that kind of yeah. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We most things with red frogs have chased us. It's sort of been a timing on doing something small and consistent, and then allowing it to grow very organically, very naturally. And that way, you get to work out all the kinks in it and what works, what doesn't work, how you run teams. Everything big starts small. I think people can try to jump too fast if they have a big dream. They want to almost skip rungs in the ladder. They want to try to get to the outcome really quickly rather than work out what is the model that works the best and test the model. And so for my skateboarding, I did that 8 years working with young people before Red Frogs even started. So it was like a Red Frogs started in 97, but it was really started down 88 when I started working with skaters. So, but then how it evolved into, say, universities is I just started playing tennis with these uni students that lived on a student residence. And I was playing tennis with them. And afterwards, I'd go back to the student residence and hang out in the common room. My first visit was just mind blowing. It was like, it was like my feet were sticking to the lift floor and all the alcohol was everywhere and there's parties and like this is the first back in the day, the first week at a student resident is like this. You had your floor party, your lane party, your pub crawl, your club crawl, your gender bender, then your toga. That's just your first week on a student resident. And say that if you're an international student or come from some sort of faith background, or if you're not a big drinker, how do you survive in that culture? It's almost like our student culture says you must drink to fit. So I thought this is like spring break, but it's like all year. And I thought, gee, these not only schoolies and spring breakers need red frogs also the students do in unis. And so I just kept playing tennis. And anyway, we had a few of the guys there. We actually started I had some of my mates who were sort of getting into the drugs and getting into different stuff. And I said, hey, boys, instead of getting into that lifestyle, why don't you help your mates? Why don't you look after them instead of getting drunk and starting fights with them? So anyway, we threw some event shirts on them, which is now known as Red Frogs. And we just started our first hydration station at a big toga party. So we had 800 donuts and 2,000 water icy poles. We had a water station. We just rode through parties, rehydrating students, walking them home so they wouldn't get assaulted, and putting food in them and putting water in them. And anyway, that just went absolutely viral. Every student resident started going, "Oh, you come to our party next week and next week and next week." And so this really organic growth happened just from doing one party. And for one party, we did two, then three, did that for a couple of years, and then went to a bigger uni in Queensland. And then it evolved, through not only Australia, but then overseas as well.
You said something really interesting there when were talking to the guys that you had a relationship with about, hey, instead of doing what everybody else is doing, why don't you take care of them? And that a lot of people might take the approach of, well, you just stay away, just isolate, go join the chess club or go read a book or something. But you're actually inspiring a generation to take care of their peers, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Culture is changed inside out, not outside in. And culture's changed little things over a long period of time become big change, but also more's caught than taught. That if you want to change culture, you need to model culture. So if you've got students their own age in those parties, not drinking like a fish and trying to sleep with everything that moves and actually looking after people, they're actually modeling a lifestyle that says, hey, you don't have to get trashed off your head, try every drug there is, go through cheap relationships to get fulfillment and have a good time. And so more's caught than taught, and you need to model that for a generation to be changed. So it's very much a lot of programming, and we see it through government and organisations and churches and all through your whole but not for profits. It's a very outside in approach. Really good programs, great intention, great people, but it's very much an outside in. But culture's changed inside out. And our thing is infiltrate and influence, being almost like a beacon within, a shining light within, that then really, and it gravitates. We get so many students coming up and saying, hey, I actually really didn't want to get on the drink tonight, but all my mates were coming, so I just thought I should. But then they start hanging with the froggers all night because they're not drinking, and it becomes like a safe zone or a chill out zone and a safety net where we can help people that really don't want to do that lifestyle. And there's been a massive shift in young adult student culture where so many more non-drinkers now. Probably 50% of uni students we deal with aren't big drinkers anymore. They're actually looking for different options. And but if they don't see what the option is, they'll just keep going out with their mates. They'll keep doing the same thing. So it needs to be modeled, it needs to be shown, and there needs to be momentum in that as well.
Have you thought about the whole university college culture, the origins of young people going wild? Is it just the fact that they're finally away from home, or and want to experiment, or is there something else going on? What have you noticed over these almost 30 years? Well,
Yeah, well,
over 30
yeah.
if you go back to your skate work.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, it's your rite of passage, isn't it? Going from teenagehood to young adulthood, and you're out of the confines of school, you're out of the confines of home. It's freedom. It's you just got freedom, and then you take the handbrake off and go for a ride, and it's and look, you're going to make some dumb decisions at that age. There's no doubt about that. But so
Yeah.
what I like to see frogs at, we're like bumper rails on a 10-pin bowling lane that we know they're going to gutter out, but we just want to bounce them back into the main lane and not let them gutter out. And like I often say, we're the fence at the top of the cliff instead of the paramedics at the bottom. We want to just get there just in time. So, yeah, look, I think it's natural. You're going to experiment, you're going to explore, you're going to find out for yourself what you like, what you don't like. But it's almost like now it's to be yourself is the key thing. And I think that the pressure to conform is actually less now. I think there are more people being confident to be themselves, and there's more people not drinking. So if you're not a big drinker, you're actually the best asset to your mate in a party. You can be the designated driver. You can do the kebab runs for the poutine runs for the boys late at night in Canada. You can make sure everyone gets home, doesn't get evicted from their rooms, doesn't get evicted from uni by being the desi on the, we call them desi, designated sober guys or girls. So, but again, you're the best asset to your mate by being yourself. So our thing is you can choose to do whatever you want, but it's the fact that you can choose. And before you couldn't choose, you were forced into drinking games, forced into hazing, forced into really negative rituals. But a lot of them are dropped, and a lot of them student residents have become a lot safer now, which is great to see. And look, and admins, general managers, heads of those accommodation places are doing a good job with their training. They're decreasing the hazing or the rituals and the unhealthy stuff, but also keeping it fun. You've got to have fun at that age. I think this generation is getting too boring, mate. I call them like the 40-20 generation. They're acting like they're 40 when they're 20. You need to go and have some fun, but it's like, but don't get totally written off doing it. Actually have fun with your mates doing it.
The some of the risks that go along with party culture. It's well documented that the the committing of crimes, the numbers of people that show up in hospital emergency rooms, like a high percentage. A lot of times, uh, there's an effect from drugs and alcohol. Sober people don't end up in emerge or jail quite as often as people that are letting themselves go. Um, what do you think? What do you think's going on? Why uh, is youth culture changing? Why are they? I mean, there's still going to be the ones that cross the red line. They're going to they're not going to even out. They're going to become some kind of alcoholic or addict. There's going to be those who cross the line ethically and get into all kinds of fights or sexual misconduct, things like that. And so it sounds like you're seeing a shift happening. And when do you think that shift started? And what's your yeah, they're not
Yeah,
the 40-20. I mean, there's a good side to
yeah,
that,
yeah.
right? But
True.
at the same time, what's shifting?
Great question, Kev, too, mate. And look, there's a couple of factors. Probably about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we saw that shift start to happen, even before COVID, and where there was definitely people would start to drink less and do crazy stuff and be more confident not to just go with the flow, but make better decisions. And it's almost like there's a couple of factors we think that have gone in there. One is the health revolution. They're just so much more health conscious now, and we notice that at the cafes at universities and also at the spring break locations used to be empty back in the day. There'd be tumbleweeds going through them at 9, 10 in the morning. Now, at 9, 10 in the morning, they're full of students doing their smashed avos and lattes. It's almost like they're switching beers for smoothies these days. So there's a real health revolution. They're up doing the morning park runs and morning yogas and stuff like that. So they're a more health conscious generation, which is they're worried about their carbs. They're worried about how many carbs they're having as well. The other big aspect to us that's helped us also is professional sport. Professional sport has become really entrenched in schooling systems where they're doing strength and conditioning training from early, like year 11, or like when they're 11 or 12 years old, through to becoming professional athletes by the time they're 17, 18. So our biggest offenders were the big alphas that were the dominant personalities. But now they're worried about recoveries and skin folds and getting selected for their in sponsorships, and they're becoming professionals so early. That's actually taken out a lot of the big alphas, which then decreases the incidence in big gatherings like university events and parties and spring break. The alphas used to dominate us. We call them like the Jonos and Shazzas in Australia, the Jono and Shazza factor. But they're being more responsible, which means others are being more responsible because they're like the natural born leaders. Then also just think there's a generational shift. We've seen it through the 70s and 80s and 60s revolutions and all these things where they're going, well, I don't want to spend $120 and wake up with peas and carrots on my shirt, feeling my head's feel like a semi-trailer hit it. I actually want to, I'm getting, and I think there's a shift too with alcohol. Alcohol shifted from primary to secondary, where the primary goal back in our day was wake up, passed out under an industrial bin with peas and carrots on a shirt. But now it's the dance party, the DJ, the mates, the band, and then alcohol's secondary. So I think alcohol's shifted, and alcohol's the major factor in sexual assaults, one punch incidents, violence, driving accidents. So even like sexual assaults. So alcohol is one of your major factors. When that decrease, a lot of the other incidents decrease as well. So what is increasing for us is drugs. The ones that are drinking are doing more drugs, and mental health. The resilience isn't there these days, and finding those two increasing, but alcohol's dropped dramatically.
Yeah, I've heard some talking about sort of 2014-ish. There was a shift in students where there began to be an increase of anxiety and depression related symptoms. Was that your observation as well?
Yeah, I think the introduction of the smartphone and the introduction of social media really raging through that period has really definitely contributed to that. Young people are being exposed to adult issues, adult content, adult concern at a really young age before they're mature enough to process that and be able to know what to do with that. So they're being exposed. It's almost like we've robbed a generation of their childhood. That, just waking up for us playing backyard footy and running around the backyard and doing, playing whatever sport it is for you guys, ice hockey, because your nation is frozen after the year. Just getting out, doing stuff with your mates and stuff, it's been robbed. They've been now bombarded with these adult issues at a young age and emotionally can't cope with that. But also, too, there's no downtime, that every gap is on your screen. So before your brain had time to rest, there was a lot of rest times where you really couldn't do anything or just couldn't do anything visually, but we're being overstimulated consistently, and it's like revving your gearbox in fifth gear on high revs. Your engine box just burns out. So again, the brakes aren't there, the gaps aren't there, and that adult content at a young age as a developing person, yeah, that stress and anxiety has just gone through the roof.
Yeah, there's a real resilience deficit that has come, and I think you're right. The smartphone didn't build community; it disconnected people from community, and also just the scrolling, right? The short attention span. Um, but then you go into university or college where there's a real academic pressure. um, I wonder if we're robbing our next generation of the opportunity to work hard and
Mm.
to get that slower dopamine release that comes from sticking to something for a long time and then seeing it slowly start to change.
Yeah, spot on too. That culture shift is not being healthy in a lot of ways as well. And then also, you mentioned at the beginning the pressure on young people to achieve now, and even things like the cannibalism of the housing markets that have gone through the roof that have made housing unaffordable for young people. And that pressure it puts on them, and the family unit is just intense. So there's been so much more through people's, chasing profits have really robbed a generation of their childhood as well.
So, tell me what countries Red Frog's in, and some stats on where you are, and what's happening around the world.
Yeah, well, in Australia, it's about our footprint's about well, last year was about 2.5 million Aussies we looked after through the Red Frog programs, through sporting events and major music festivals, and then a lot university parties, high schools, board riders program as well. But then we're all through New Zealand, through South Africa, into Wales, Scotland, England. We started in France 3 years ago with our French froggies over there in Montpellier, doing big music festivals and also universities. Obviously, Canada, which has been amazing, through 23 cities in Canada now, which is amazing. And then we started in Nashville, in Tennessee. We just red frogged the big country music festival recently, 800,000 over 4 days. And we do downtown response. We have hydration stations outside the country bars down there. And it's been amazing impact in reducing, particularly reducing sexual assaults, just by getting people into Ubers or into cabs late at night and get them home rather than off with randoms, and just rehydrating people and just being that chill out zone there to offload and get people to emergency services just in time, not after time. So the teams have been doing amazing stuff. Thailand also started in Chiang Rai in some residential colleges as well. So throughout the world, it's probably in about another 1.3 million uni students globally where we look after through the Froggy program.
This is a podcast about Canadian cities, and I do have to brag a little bit about Red Frogs in Canada. One of the Red Frog workers here for a few years, Nellie Latchman. I was fortunate to be able to work with Nellie and be a bit of a mentor to her. She ran Frogs at the University of Windsor campus here, and it was so well received that it began to catch the attention outside the university. Our national broadcaster CBC did a piece about red frogs in Windsor, and one of the city councilors approached Nellie and said, "We have a party culture in downtown Windsor. There's a lot of bars. We're a border city, so a lot of American kids would cross the border because our drinking age was lower." And so Nellie had red frogs in downtown Windsor for a season, and yeah, I love the fact that, as you said, it grows from the inside out. It's peer based. It's not top down. It's coming alongside peers and being a positive influence, harm reduction. Um,
Mm,
and harm reduction sometimes gets politicized when people start talking about needle exchange programs and step down drug and alcohol programs, all that kind of thing. But this is a different kind of harm reduction, and just maybe talk a little bit about some of the harms that red frogs have prevented. Like, I'm sure you're
mm,
constantly hearing stories of young men and women who are having their lives protected and spared
mm.
because a team was
Absolutely.
there.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. No, look, and that makes it worthwhile. Like all the organisation, all the work you do. If you just say one, if you just are there for one, it's worth it. And been some amazing stories over the years of those just being right place, right time. And but even some of the stats are amazing too. We have a thing called the Red Frog Hotline in Australia where any student can ring that 24 hours a day during their spring break and get red frogs delivered to their party or get random acts of pancakes. We do about 100,000 pancakes over that amount of time. And but one of our big programs is Walk Home. We've actually got an app where you can get walked home safely back to your accommodation from your party venue. And we do about 5,000 walk homes over schoolers. In fact, one team broke a record. They did 23.5 kilometres of walk homes in one night. Should be called Red Frog Biggest Loser over that time. But in that, though, we've actually seen a 75% reduction in sexual assaults in the last 10 years, where we used to do it about 80 to 90 a year. Now it's in the 20s, which is still too many. But just through those walk home teams have been a major factor in that. And for example, they'll see a young girl half being dragged down the street. Our four froggers will go up to the bloke and go, "Hey, mate, good job looking after her. We'll take it from here, buddy." The amount of time we've gotten back to her girlfriend's units, they've gone, "Thank you so much. We lost our friend in the dance party. Didn't even know who that guy was." It's just incredible. So just those early intervention moments are just quite incredible. But also too, around the mental health, we actually, in Australia, speak in 814 high schools in our year. We do education on how not to get evicted from your parties and how not to turn your parents into grandparents over the party week, and we'll also how to avoid tricky situations and all those sort of things. But we actually do a little bit of mental health training around looking out for your mates. Look for signs of your mates struggling. Listen to them. Don't think they're just rambling on. Talk about what's going on and seek help together. And on our Red Frog hotline, we had 108 call outs from students going, "Hey, my mate's not going well." But in that, they intervened with 19 suicide ideations last year. And some of the stories are just quite incredible, where I actually had this one guy come up to me and he goes, "Oh, are you like the boss frog? You like King Frog?" I went, "Yeah, mate." He goes, "Oh, I just wanted to thank you for your teams visit me at spring break when they weren't supposed to." I said, "Why were they supposed to visit you, buddy?" He says, "I was staying down the south end of the Gold Coast, and you guys came all the way from the north down to visit me." I thought, "Oh, that's nice of the froggies, mate. What they do, like clean your room or make you pancakes or walk you home." He goes, "No, I was having some really dark thoughts and I was really struggling, and your guys came down and helped me, and I just wanted to thank you for saving my life." Mate, absolutely floored me. Like all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and all the hairs on my back stood up too, which is quite a few. And what had happened is we'd gone to his school in regional Queensland, given out our hotline card and said, "Hey, if your mate's struggling, make sure you ring someone." And they rang us about 2 days in, got some more professional counsellors down to get with this young guy. And now he's gone on to do a Bachelor of Engineering at a Queensland uni and now working in that space, doing really well. But again, it was his mates. And our big thing is mates looking after mates and being the eyes and ears there. But just those, just for that one, it's worth it. Just for those one stories, it's worth it. And but being out there, you got to be in it to win it, and you got to have a crack. And I think why we don't make a difference is we're just not available. We're so busy with our own careers, our own little friend networks, our own programs we run, that we're just not available for a generation to make change. And it's really not hard to impact your generation. We just need to be available.
Talk to me a minute about those peers who say, "No, I'm going to help my mates." What over the years that you've been doing this, how has that shaped the caregivers, the advocates, the ones who are coming alongside? What have you seen happening in their lives as they take that risk of caring?
Oh yeah, great question, Kev. Too. It's look, it really does change the work. Well, I've been changed through it. I mean, I was destined to have my own accounting career and my own, footy membership and my own little world and my own trips and stuff. But it's actually by getting out of that bubble and being out into where you can actually make a difference in your world has radically changed my life and given me such a bigger perspective that life's bigger than study 20 years, work 40, retire and die. That there's a bigger purpose. The purpose isn't about you. It's about the big fella and others. It's about, and selfishness is our biggest enemy in life, being so self-centered. The enemy that robs us is self, and by learning to lay that down, your own ambitions, your own desires, what you want to do, and then make that sacrifice to take up to serve others and be about others is really, and for me, being a Christian, my faith has been a big part of that journey. That was Jesus' model. He was the biggest cultural reformer that the planet's ever seen. The whole calendar system is based on this guy. We get a holiday for his birthday. We get a holiday at his death. They've got our Easter eggs. But he was a massive cultural reformer, but he did that through servant leadership. And I think being a servant, being about others is in any organization. If you want to be successful in your whatever firm you're in or company, promoting others more than yourself, being about others more than yourself is how you become successful in life. And look at some of the biggest influences, like Mother Teresa is one of my, absolute legends. She literally reformed whole places of India, just through serving, through loving ones that no one else wanted to love. And he used to say she used to walk into rooms of world leaders and they just go quiet in her presence. She carried this incredible aura, not because she was a big spruiker going, look at me and I'm this and I'm powerful, but she gave her life to serve others, to win others. And I think that, putting that servanthood culture into the workers, and they catch that, and then they do it as an everyday thing. That's how you should live in your workplace, in your home, in your church life, wherever your wife is. That principle of serving is such a powerful, powerful thing.
Andy, I just have one more question for you. Where do you see Red Frogs as a global organization going? What's on the horizon?
Yeah, it looks so exciting. Loving what's happening in Canada through all the university student residents and the uni parties, and you're literally seeing culture change in your nation. Talking to pub and club owners in Montreal on the radical change that's happened with student culture and the amount of ambulances that aren't called now and the incidents that have dropped, and they really rate Red Frogs as one of the key culture changing tools in that city and in cities all through Canada. But I mean, we're doing a lot more in schools, high schools with high school after parties. We're doing a lot more education in schools as well. Board riders is a big thing. You have a few ski resorts in your country that are like spring break every weekend, and places like Whistler and Blackcomb that are just full of Aussies and Kiwis running amok in your nation, setting a bad example. So there's plenty of room there to get in there to make a difference, to curb some of the, to drop the sexual assaults, experimental drug use, alcohol ODs, getting in there to make a difference in those cultures as well. Also through board riders, through skateboarding, we're doing a lot more as well. And sport is a massive thing in our countries, and we're in major sporting events, but also in sporting clubs, creating really healthy environments in sporting clubs, not so young athletes get sucked into the drinking scene, but again they can pursue their dreams in a safe way as well. So I think through festivals, sports, backpackers, there's so much expansion we're wanting to do through our nations around the world, and just being in it to win it, out there to make a difference, just getting out there, having a crack, and serving a generation, to influence a generation.
Andy, it's been so great talking to you, and I'll be watching just as the years go by to continue to see all the great things that Red Frogs are doing, and I just want to personally thank you for really giving your life to this work. Yeah, it's a little hard to picture you as an accountant, to be honest. I don't know too many skateboarding accountants, but anyways, thank you for being that risk taker and saying there's got to be a better way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. God bless.
What a great conversation with Andy Gourley. On our next episode, I'm going to be talking to Pastor Mark Royal and his associate, David Gagne. They are pastors at a church called the Gate Church in Niagara Falls. One of the things that makes their setting so unique is that they bought an old school, 120,000 square feet. And in the school, they have a mix of church, residential, businesses, community agencies. It's a real community space making a difference in their part of the city. So come on back to hear more about the Gate Church. Until that time, I'm your host, Kevin Rogers, and you're listening to Sidewalk Skyline Podcast.